It's not just pork, onions, and corn that the country is heavily importing. Senators have found out that around 93% of the nation's salt supply is actually sourced from abroad.
Ang sinisisi ng ilang ahensya ang batas na nag-oobligang lahat ng lokal na asin dapat iodized.
Bakit nyo ni-require na lahat ng salt i-iodize? Sino naglabi sa inyo? The original. Ako, may feeling ako may naglabi sa inyo, yung importer ng iodized salt. Tingin ko. Kasi kung ako yan, hindi ko i-require lahat.
Pag mag-iodize ka, kailangan po lahat po pantay-pantay pong mag-iodize.
You demanded that the local salt be iodized. Tapos ngayon, mag-i-import kayo ng salt na hindi iodized. Ano ba yan? Ano bang malaking kalokohan yan? Di sana pinayagan nyo na lang yung local producer na hindi iodized at ni-require nyo na lang na may manufacturer na mag-iodize. Kung ganun din lang ang gagawin nyo na mag-i-import kayo ng hindi iodized tapos i-require nyo yung iodized. Ano ba yan?
From salt to eggs, from onions to rice, food concerns emerge one after another. We've had lots of conversations already about demand, supply, and prices. Here's another one, but this time let's talk about long-term solutions. We invite you to listen in on the discussions tonight on the Chiefs. Welcome to this weekend edition of The Chiefs. Ako po si Robbie Alampay. Kasama po natin dito sa studio in Mandaluyong, Editor-in-Chief ng Philippine Star, si Ami Pamintuan. Ami, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Kanina binabasa ko yung intro. Yung fried rice, paano yun? Walang mahal ng rice, mahal ng egg, mahal ng asin, mahal ng onions. Paano yung fried rice ko?
Yun na nga. Pero, nagmumura na ng konti ang
talaga?
onion.
Okay.
Okay. Pero, yun naman bawang ang pinoproblema nila ngayon. Although, pumapasok yung bawang na imported. Pero yung mas masarap, ito, endorse ko na yung yung local bawang natin. From Ilocos Norte, mas masarap yun. Kaya,
Pula?
No, the bawang. The bawang, it's garlic.
Sorry,
It's halos doble presyo eh. Yun ang sinasabi. Those are our long-term problems. Matagal ng problema yan. Pero yung malalaking bawang, sabihin ko sa mga namimili.
Paano yung iba? Paano yung iba? Alam ko, panaderia ka. Paano yung itlog, halimbawa?
Yung itlog, ayaw bumaba ang presyo. Hindi malaman, di ba? Sabi na nga ni President Marcos eh. Wala naman daw dahilan para tumaas yan. Kahit magtaas masyado yung chicken feed. Kaya nagtataka sila eh. So we don't know what's happening. Ayaw bumaba yung yung presyo ng itlog. Sorry na lang yung umilit.
So onion medyo bumababa na,
Yes,
pero yung
softening.
itlog, mahal pa rin. Ang asukal.
Asukal sugar prices refuse to go down.
So wala akong asahan na leche plan sa'yo.
Talaga mahirap yun.
Ano yung, baka ma-luxury tax tayo doon.
Yan na nga.
Sige. Anyway, we'll be speaking to our first guest after a short break. Marami tayong pag-uusapan ng pagkain ngayon tsaka mga sangkap gaya ng dati. But the Chiefs will be right back. Bitter truths coming out of the salt industry. We've been importing as much as 90%, even 93% of our supply, even if we're surrounded by seas. What's the root of this irony? Joining us now, Gerard Conghun, President of the Philippine Association of Salt Industry Networks, or PhilAsin. Good evening, Gerard. Welcome to the Chiefs.
Hi. Good evening, Robbie. Good evening, Ami.
Welcome.
Let me start with that intro because I think people have read this on the news and they're still asking the same. 90% talaga? I mean, really, kasi yun lang naman talaga yung iniisip ng tao. Parang ang dami-daming dagat, napapaligiran tayo ng dagat, but we're importing, that's true, we're importing 90+%
Yes,
of our salt?
it's true. We're importing 93%. The data actually comes from the Philippine Statistics Authority. And the data for the local salt industry is from our members and our own survey of all the available salt farms. So we're really producing only 7%.
But educate us a bit and disabuse us of and explain to us why we should be disabused of this what people think is common sense. Di ba? Kasi you talk about the salt farms. I remember my drives to the north. I could see that. Di ba? As far as the eye can see, puro puti. Oh, yan, diyan ang gagaling ang asin. But how is it possible na napapaligiran tayo ng salt water and yet we're importing 90% of our salt?
Well, it's siguro it's a complicated answer, but I could say that if you want to shorten that answer, ang totoo niyan, hindi po napansin ang industriya ng asin ng ating pamahalaan over 3 or 4 decades. And the salt industry it's a small industry to begin with. And nung may mga nagbibigay na ng hinaing na pansinin nyo naman kami, maraming priority ang ating government. So, naintindihan naman natin yun. So, siguro I could enumerate yung mga reasons. Can I go into that?
Oh, sure. Pero I think a basic question lang, no, before we get to policies, ano bang hindi naintindihan ng tao sa industry? Because for me, being someone who doesn't know anything about the industry, nandun lang muna ako sa level na, gano'ng kahirap ba yan? Di ba? Magpapatuyo ka lang naman ng salt water dyan, meron ka ng asin. I mean, what is it that, just to make that connection, ano bang hindi namin naintindihan? You refer to the industry. How difficult is this industry?
Salt making per se, hindi naman mahirap siya. Kasi ang raw material mo, gagawa ka ng asin, magpapapasok ka ng tubig dagat. Then, ibibilad mo sa mga pond o mga salt ponds, evaporator ponds. Tapos, ipapaaraw mo siya. Pag napaaraw mo na siya, iha-harvest mo siya. Then, yun, isako mo na, pwede mo nang, kung kakainin ng tao, i-iodize, then dadalhin mo na sa merkado. Pero yung gagawa ka ng asin, at kanina kinakanta ko, lalagay mo sa pond, kailangan mo yon ng pond. For that, kailangan mo ng access dun sa shoreline, yung baybayin natin, yung coastline natin. At yon, kailangan ng government permits yon. And over the several decades, nagpatong-patong na yung mga batas na pahirap na ng pahirap
To get access
to that shoreline. There are so many kinds of permits that are required, and so an ordinary salt farmer cannot anymore go through that level of bureaucratic processes para gumawa ng asin.
So ano yung pinakamalaking hindrance? Kasi we have 7,100 islands.
Yes.
At naaalala ko pa, nung teenager ako, meron pang salt beds kahit sa Las Piñas.
Ako, tagal na nun.
And Parañaque. At pati Parañaque, di ba? Marami.
Yes.
Ano nangyari?
Well, for that, yung sa side naman ng Parañaque and those, may mga area tayo na nagde-develop kasi yung bansa natin eh. Dumadami yung tao. So, yung use ng lupa, nababago yung use from, let's say, agricultural or salt farms to other uses.
Ang salt bed ba is agricultural?
It's an agricultural
Di ba
product.
hindi siya pwedeng i-convert?
Well, I think pwede naman i-convert. Depends on what kind of area it is. Pero nako-convert naman siya. So, ang nangyari, I checked our own records. As early as as late as the 70s, mga ganung period, we had about 5,000 hectares of salt farms. Today, we went through, we also did our Google map search, ganun. Nagkaroon mga nasa 2,000 hectares na lang ang farm. Yes.
So wala kalahati.
It's in decline. Nagde-decline. Hindi naman yung decline ang problema lang eh. Hindi tayo nagdadagdag.
Okay.
Kailangan dagdagan natin buksan natin yung, sabi natin, ang dami nating coastline, dami nating dagat. Yes, hindi naman natin ginagamit. Hindi naman natin binubuksan yon para maging asinan siya. So, maraming ang dagat, pero hindi siya makapag-asin kasi hindi pa siya salt farm.
Now, notwithstanding that, you said dati 5,000 hectares, now it's around 2,000 hectares.
2,000 plus, yeah.
That's supplying only about 10% of our salt requirements. So I imagine even when we had 5,000, although that was a much smaller population, even when we had, we were never self-sufficient in
We were self-sufficient, I think, in the 60s.
Okay.
60s, early 70s.
Ang laking jump nun from self-sufficient to 7%.
Yes, kasi
Bakit ganon?
the population more than doubled in that time and yung mga gamit ng asin dumadami.
Okay.
When you industrialize,
Yes.
dumadami yung mga example. Dati naman walang water filling station. Water filling stations, lahat marami na ngayon. Gumagamit ng asin yan. So factories, they use salt pang water.
That's industrial yun. di ba?
Bakit sila gumagamit ng ano? I mean, let me throw this question and then we can get into the problems in policy and so
Sige,
on.
sige.
But just to educate us on ano, let's talk about the demand side. Kasi iniisip namin, di ba, ilang asin ba kailangan ko para sa kainan namin? But ano ba yung applications ng salt dito other than for food consumption?
Especially little.
The science says na salt has about 14,000 uses.
Wow.
It's thousands. Okay. Kasi to start
And
with,
eating is just one of that 14,000. Ganun.
eating is just one, but within that food, marami nang gamit eh. Hindi lang siya flavor.
Preservative.
It's a preservative, ganon, and so on. So, isa na yun, no? Example, kanina nagkakwentuhan tayo, amin na pag gagawa ka ng bread, di ba? Lahat ng bread may salt pang control ng alsa. So, that's one. Fish, preservative, daing, lahat yan. So, food yan. So, it's used in water treatment. Kung you want to purify water, there's a machine there called an ion exchange. It uses salt to clean up the ion exchange machine.
Okay.
So that's one.
Okay.
If you lahat ng chlorine, you know, for example,
Swimming pool?
hydrochloric acid or the chlorine in swimming pool, all of those chemistries come from sodium chloride salt.
Sodium
So
chloride.
lahat ng makita mong chemical na may chlorine or may sodium, example, sodium bicarbonate, baking soda.
Yes.
Lahat yan galing sa salt. So,
okay.
hindi lang na we're importing salt, we're importing most of the value-added products that come from salt.
Other ingredients.
We import baking soda, we import
Yes.
hydrochloric acid, we import most of that. So, hindi lang yun yung effect sa economy. And because China is the number one producer, we're importing all of those secondary products from China also.
But is the majority of the applications here in the country, is the majority of the demand for food consumption, or is the actual majority actually for what? Industry and ano?
And the majority is still for food.
Okay.
For food. And then may mga uses sa industry, chemicals, some chemical industry, some feed. Lahat ng feed meron yan. Chicken feed,
Yes.
hogs, and so on. So meron lahat yan.
Okay, so nalatag na natin.
Ang dami.
Mahalaga ang salt.
Mahalaga.
So gets na natin.
You cannot
now
have a modern economy without salt.
Okay, now let's get to what we wanted to talk about now. What are the problems of the industry? Let's start with what's been being thrown around and thrown about right now. That a lot of people say it boils down to the salt iodization law. Is it that simple, or are there other things that brought us to this situation?
Iodization came much later, and meron din siyang effect sa industry. Pero the decline has been starting even before iodization. So
Iodization was in 1995.
1995, the law was passed in December. Pero the industry was already not able to meet local demand as recently as the early 80s.
Early 80s.
Yes, so it's
From self-sufficiency to
Yeah.
failure to meet the local demand.
Yes,
What
oo.
happened noon?
Yun nga, hindi tayo nagdagdag ng asinan.
Yes.
Oo.
Dumadami yung uses.
Dumadami yung population, dumadami yung uses. We computed that in our estimate sa association, ang kailangan ng bansa is 18,000 hectares of salt farm.
We're at 2. Ulitin lang natin. We're at 2,000 right now.
Yeah, so it's quite a long way to go,
Yeah.
'di ba? So kailangan natin buksan 'yon, and we need permits, we need government support, we
And
need
the production process never essentially changed. It's still essentially based on land. Is there a more modern way that lessens dependency on actual hectarage?
I'm sure there are research ongoing, pero we don't want to reinvent the wheel at this point. Parang that's a tested process that's done in many countries. So there's no need to really reinvent that. It's really a policy and a government support issue. Because in other countries, I'll give you an example. Vietnam is about, I think, 77% self-sufficient. But they only have 1/10 of our shoreline.
Yeah.
Oh, kaya nga. Bakit ganon?
They're making more than 1 million tons. We're making like 60,000
So why
tons.
is that?
Because their government policy, they have a 5-year plan for the salt industry. Every 5 years, they put it into place and then they
Anong
encourage...
salient points ng 5-year plan na yun? By way of support.
By way of support, they're opening up more areas for salt making. They make sure that the overhead, the rental income, and so on is very low. And then there's a ministry for rural development in Vietnam na ang kanilang focus talaga, development of the rural farmers. And they identified na salt is one of their key commodities.
As a commodity, but I also want to ask, I mean, if you wanted to sweeten that argument with government and the private sector, that this is a sector worth investing in, and what are the potential products and value adds that are we missing out on here? Because ayun nga, even to me, I start off thinking salt, asin na yan, parang ano naman yan. But if you were to develop the industry, how high of a value can we actually get from that industry?
The total value of the salt that we need to produce to supply the country, siguro nasa 6 billion pesos. It doesn't sound like a lot, no? Compared to other industries, agriculture industries, or the value of, say, sibuyas and so on. Pero the downstream of that, it could be worth 10 to 15 billion additional. Plus,
Why?
What's the downstream? Expound on the downstream.
Downstream, for example, when you bake, you know the baking soda,
Yes.
Arm and Hammer, mga ganyan.
Okay.
Baking soda is sodium bicarbonate. So that comes from sodium chloride. So we can't make our own. So all of our baking soda is imported. So, di ba, wala kang makitang local brand. Kung may nakita kang local brand, repack na lang yun from China.
What about yung producer mismo? Are they still interested? Salt farmers? Kasi murang-mura asin eh. Are people still interested actually in producing salt? Kasi meron din mga program to produce gourmet salt. Yun ang ginagawa ngayon ng ibang bansa, di ba?
Yes.
To encourage more salt production of both basic and gourmet. Di ba merong sobrang mahal na salt sa yung kulay purple eh. Mas mahal sa onion. And these types of, and you can make a tourism thing about it, yun, yung salt production. Sa Pangasinan, ginagawa na nila yun eh.
Yes, there are some tourism, ecotourism projects.
So pwede ba yun? Can that save the salt industry?
I think we can save the salt industry. So the first question is, are farmers still interested?
Yes.
I think yes. The producers that I've talked to, they want to make salt. And if they see that the policies are in place, they see that it's, we're calling it an ease of doing business issue.
Yes.
It's so hard to get a permit and so on. It takes years to transfer a lease from one person to another person. But basta maraming mga red tape and all of these delays and fixing permits. So, kung maayos yon and we can get enough support from government, I think marami nang maengganyo kasi I'm already hearing interest when there are people approaching us in the association and saying, I'm interested I have a fish pond there. I've not been using it.
Yes.
I want to revive it. What can we do?
I don't know if this
There
is
is interest.
Yeah, but I don't know if this is a stupid question, especially because puro coast tayo, di ba? But is there a region that's logical for this, or can we literally have the salt industry being supported and seeded literally in all our islands?
Oh, that's a good question. Salt, like any agricultural product, kailangan ng certain climate conditions. So in Pag-asa, they have a type climate. It's called the type 1 climate. Ang suitable for salt making. What is that? So type 1 means you have a long dry season. Na hopefully continuously no rainfall. You can have that in region 1, region 3, region 4. So it's no surprise why Pangasinan is in region 1
Yes.
and the other salt producing province, Mindoro, is in region 4. And some time ago, Bulacan was also a major salt producing province. It's in region 3.
Yeah.
Because this is the really ideal climate for salt making.
So you're affected by climate change also?
There are effects, yes. But I think the producers who have survived so far, they have figured out how to adapt to changing climates. So that technology can be shared. So I think many will say na we can make our own salt. We can be self-sufficient.
Of course, you also want the law on iodization amended.
We would ask
Or
Congress to amend it. Yes.
Or repealed.
Not really repeal. We submitted a position paper. Ang sabi namin doon, kailangan naman yung iodization.
Yeah.
Yes, for health.
It's for health, public
Yes.
health, diba? Our thyroids won't work without
Yes.
iodine and so
Yes.
on. Ang kailangan lang po natin is, kailangan natin bigyan ng proper exemptions to encourage
Depende
industries.
sa
Example,
use.
gourmet salt, salt that will be for export,
Yes.
salt that will be used for food that will be for export, yung mga ganon. And
Pwede.
any kind of ang sinasabi namin doon, this is an idea from us is what if we allow another agency, example the DTI, to communicate the exemptions to the FDA. Kasi if we go to the FDA, ask them for exemptions, most of the time the answer is, well, it's for food and that's the law, so
Yes.
we can't exempt that. And we can't exempt kung walang change doon sa law.
O, linawin lang namin. Can you sell salt that's not iodized in the Philippines?
You can.
Under the law?
You can, but that salt is
is.
not for food. So example, yung water treatment na kinikwento ko kanina, if you're gonna sell salt for water treatment, yung
Pwede siyang hindi iodized.
hindi talaga iodized, and pwede siyang
okay.
it's in the law na hindi kailangan i-iodize.
So bakit
Is it
I see-
damaging? Is it damaging to
Yeah.
certain equipment? For example, for non-food applications, and for example, yung mga ganyan
Iodine.
sa is the iodization actually damaging?
No, it's not.
It's not.
It's
So
not.
harmless din yun.
So bakit ang dami ko nakikitang gourmet salt? Himalayan, pink salt is not iodized, I'm sure. At meron nga dito yung pagkamahal-mahal nga na purple salt, so expensive.
Yes.
I'm sure it's not iodized. So bakit nabebenta yon?
We'll have to leave that to the FDA, but I'm sure the FDA will say that it's not iodized and it's for human consumption, and it has no place in the shelf unless it is allowed by the law. So hindi talaga pwede.
Technically, kontrabando yung Himalayan.
Aha,
Himalayan
mainstream
salt
yung
mo.
mga nagtitinda nun, hindi sa
Yes,
palengke.
oo.
Okay, ay yung tinitinda sa palengke, they are not necessarily iodized, di ba?
Ang
Yung mga
sinasabi ng mga
tumpok-tumpok.
yung mga tumpok-tumpok, may mga ibang nakasako na iodized, meron ding below standard yung iodization. So kailangan din enforcement.
Gaano ba kamahal yan kaya nagrereklamo yung mga salt producer? How much does it take to iodize a particular amount of salt?
I would say for a 50 kilo bag in the wholesale, it's about 15 pesos per bag or maybe a little bit more. So meron din costs, pero ang issue dyan is the enforcement eh. So if halimbawa nag-iodize ka, so it costs you 15 pesos more. You sell it, you expect to at least sell it for 15 pesos higher.
Ang liit-liit kasi ng
Oo.
kita, no?
Yung iba, hindi nag-iodize, so they will undercut now kasi hindi naman sila nag-iodize. They will
Yes.
undercut by 15. So kailangan mong i-enforce equally yung law para yung mga gusto mag-iodize, hindi naman sila
Sige.
mahirapan.
Yung batas, obviously, that's on the national level. You need intervention there on the national level. The Senate, the Congress is already looking into this. But all the other problems that you mentioned, particularly on the ease of doing business, how much of the problems or the challenges or the obstacles are to be addressed on the local government levels?
A local government na pro-business na nag-encourage, malaking factor yon. Because the local government, kaya niyang i-pool together yung support for any new project. So, whether your project is a 10-hectare salt farm or a 100-hectare salt farm, malaki yung role ng mayor, ganon, yung local barangay, to support the incoming investment.
Yeah. And then, infrastructure-wise, when you say that somebody who invests here, one basic requirement is we need access to the shoreline. How simple or how complicated is that access? So that a local official is saying, oh, kaya namin yun.
Okay. So, there are two agencies that can grant shorelines. One agency is the DNR. Sa DNR talaga naka-lodge yung pag-i-issue ng shoreline. Now, in the law, that's the fishery code, they gave the BIFAR also the mandate to be able to issue fish pond leases naman that are also used for salt making. So you can get permits from either agency. Ngayon, yun palang processes na yun, that takes years
Wow, years.
to process certain applications.
But I was gonna ask, if DNR is involved, obviously kailangan ng ECC niyan, kailangan ng EIA niyan.
I was about to go into that.
Sige. I mean, and then I'll ask it explicitly lang. What might be the legitimate adverse impacts of a salt farm on the land and contiguous land that DNR has legitimate reason to busisiin?
To prolong it for years. Sobra
No,
naman
but I
yan.
mean, not necessarily for long, but legitimate, yung environmental impact?
Salt farm projects, the kind we need now, you have the shoreline. Pag nag-grant yung use ng shoreline, you're not only applying for the shoreline. To make a salt farm project nowadays, you need to enclose a certain part beyond the shore.
Okay.
So para kang gagawa ng enclosure
May
dike.
barrier yan,
Oo, gagawa ka ng parang enclosure or a dike so that you can enclose a part of the sea and then dun mo ilalagay yung seawater mo na gagawing salt.
Okay.
So, we understand that, of course, we need to protect the environment and respect the wildlife and so on. So, we have to incorporate that. Pero, by far, once salt farms are constructed, they become part of the ecosystem. There are many, many salt farms around the world that have become wildlife sanctuaries. Wild birds the seabirds are
Yung fleur de sel sa France.
yes, so
Diba?
you can see flamingos there in those
Yes,
pictures
yes, so beautiful.
because they are
But it doesn't
they become
sali-
part of the habitat.
But there's no risk of over-salinating the water and for that matter, salinating productive land.
I think yung nagiging salty yung that's another issue. It doesn't have to do with salt farming.
I see.
Oo, pero yung salt industry as an industry, I think it's one of the most environmental friendly
Yes.
industries. The raw material is seawater, so it's literally sea free. The power to evaporate is solar. It's the original solar industry. Wala pang solar panel.
Fertilizer siya for mango,
Wala
actually.
pang solar panel, may solar.
It's good for mango, di ba?
Yes, solar powered na yung
Ay,
salt
coconut,
industry.
coconut.
And it doesn't produce any waste, 'di ba? All of it you evaporate the water, then you get the salt. So it's a very environmental friendly industry, and then nagiging ecosystem yung ating salt farm, 'di ba? It attracts birds, wildlife and so on. Mangroves, you can plant mangroves after that. So it's a very environmental friendly industry.
Okay. Well, Gerard, this has been very, very fascinating. Thank
Kulang
you.
pa.
Oh.
Oo nga, tingnan mo.
Lalo na,
Dami pang tanong.
you were speaking the language of Ami.
Oo.
Daming mga vested interest yan sa asin
asin.
at baking soda. But thank you very much. Si Gerard
Thank
Conghon
you.
po, President ng Philippine Association of Salt Industry Networks or PhilAsin. Maraming salamat, Gerard.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you.
And we'll start up another conversation after this break. Keep it here on One News.
The president said the onion crisis exposed issues in the country's agricultural production, and because of this, Marcos Jr. assured that the government is laying down plans to improve the local production.
Ang lumabas talaga yung sa onion na problema ay yung ating cold chain. Kulang-kulang ang cold chain natin. We need more cold storage, we need a better, stronger cold chain para ma-maintain naman natin, ma-preserve naman natin yung agricultural products.
President Bongbong Marcos wants to determine the cause of price increase for eggs. Based on the DA's monitoring, prices of eggs have climbed to 9 pesos per piece from just around 6 pesos last month.
We determined that the increase of price of eggs is not commensurate to the increase in production costs. So we will have to have a look to see how to control that because we cannot explain almost 1/2 of the profit margin that we're seeing. We cannot attribute it to cost.
Inflation isn't just hitting consumers hard. Businesses are hurting as well. How is the retail industry coping? Let's talk to Stephen Kua, President of the Philippine Amalgamated Supermarkets Association. Good evening, Mr. Kua, and welcome to the Chiefs.
Good evening.
Good to see you, sir, in person.
Yes, finally, in the flesh.
Yes. Mr. Kua, mga tao, everybody's complaining, di na kami makagawa ng bistik, di na kami makagawa ng omelette.
Yes.
Sino ba talaga across the value chain? Sino ba talaga ang may problema? Saan yung pinakamalaking problema?
Alam mo, wala sa amin yung problema. That's one thing for sure. Okay, we're on the receiving end. The receiving of all the flack. But, you know, kami, we're just receiving the goods and selling it to the public, right?
Yes.
The middlemen tell us wala silang makuhang goods. Not enough. I mean, that's what they tell us, no? For eggs, they say it's avian flu, no? The National Egg Board, the association says may avian flu that's causing there. No? For onions, you know, it's just too bad that yesterday there was a National Price Guaranteeing Council meeting.
Yes.
However, I missed it because they emailed us 3 in the morning and asked for a meeting 10 in the morning. So I wasn't able to read my mail at the time. So wasn't able to. They depend. I think the gist was yesterday was on how to make sure that the prices of onions go down and as quickly as possible to as wide as possible.
Sige, how quickly is quickly as possible? Kasi nung Sunday, no, I went to the supermarket Sunday, one of the big supermarkets, 580 pa rin ang kilo.
Last week, I was in Baguio, thinking that it might be cheaper there. It was 350 a kilo in shallots, so it was 350 a kilo, so, you know, there was no relief, no? Although they said that it's supposed to go down to 170 to 250, no? Very soon. I think there are supermarkets now selling at 280. 280 to 300 right now.
Sige, okay. Yung dun sa binanggit nyo, I mean, you said the middlemen say there's not enough product that they're getting. So that's what helps to reconcile yung sinasabi na what we've been hearing, that farm gate prices are low.
Really low.
Diba?
Yeah.
Tapos pagdating sa retail ang mahal. So what you're saying is they can pick it up at the farm gate pero they don't have the volume to, is that it?
Correct. So there are some groups which are approaching me and telling me that if I have the access or, you know, the means, the logistics to pick up certain vegetables, not necessarily onions, no? It's dirt cheap down wherever it's from. Okay?
So mura talaga.
Yes, yun ang sabi. Kaya lang, yun na nga, nabanggit ka ng Presidente, the cold storage thing, no? The cold chain. Cold Chain Association has been active for the last 20 plus years. No? They've been in touch with us also, no? And they've been always barking at the fact that there is not enough facilities, no? Which will help them be able to assure the public that there's enough
so their
fresh produce.
their per unit price naman in the middle is too high.
Yes.
Also, precisely because they're not getting the volume that they need para masulit yung capacity nila.
Pilferage, shrinkage, no? That's what's causing probably, you know, by the end of the trip, yung fruit, yung vegetables mo, no? Kunti na lang ang maabot sa shelves, no? So, syempre, ang kwenta mo, dati ilang kilo yan, yung truck, ba't nabawasan ng ganun karami? Siguro yun, handling and storage.
But I want to understand that. Spoilage, I can understand.
Yes.
Pilferage, why is that a problem?
Well, I would tend to think that along the way, sa dami ng dinaan, no? When you say pilferage, kasali doon yung mga kailangang bayaran along the way, no?
Okay.
Okay, so you still call that added costs, no?
Mahal yun.
Miscellaneous.
Mahal
Miscellaneous costs. Miscellaneous costs. Samantalang ang DILG has already mentioned from years ago na dapat bawal mangolekta ng local taxes kapag dadaan lang naman sa kanila, hindi man lang huminto sa
Pero may bago nga daw ngayon In fact, that's what some of the egg producers are saying.
Yes.
Na nag-impose daw kanya-kanya yung mga LGU ng sarili-sarili nilang fees, additional, bago. Kaya daw minahalan yung itlog.
Kumbaga kahit bayaran mo ako ng sibuyas, lamang pa ako doon. parang sinuklihan ka ng candy sa jeep, di ba? Parang,
of course, you're trying to figure out
sino
sino itong mga LGU na to, no? I mean, we're not saying, is it the governor, the vice governor, the mayor, no? Is it the barangay captain, no? Is it the people lang just who are, safeguarding the place along the palengke na dinadaanan ng trucks na nakakakos din ng traffic, di ba? I mean, when you say they ask for money, hindi naman yung pahihintuin pa ng matagal or what, sandali lang.
Facilitation fee lang.
Kumbaga, paraan lang, parang ticket lang.
But that's a good point because we've always been just looking at it and trying to make that connection on the basic supply and demand calculations. Now what we're saying is
the in-between.
Let's factor in how things work in the Philippines.
Yes, that's true.
Yung value chain nga.
May wholesale operations din kami. So we do deliver 10-wheelers to the provinces. So along the way, meron mga nahihinto na, you have to give them food,
pay the piper.
Breakfast.
Hindi pwedeng omelette, ha?
Buti pa doon, may
Hindi pwedeng
sinangag.
omelette,
Di ba?
Bakit lang
Buti pa doon,
sibuyas
may
ka?
sinangag.
Tumaas ang halaga ng breakfast, di ba? The
Pero
cost
ito,
of
Panel,
things.
have you brought this up with authorities? Halimbawa, Department of the Interior.
There have been
Kasi
many
they
meetings.
have the say sa
But they cannot
local.
pinpoint who nga, like I said, kasi local government, ang daming
But
echelons.
why?
ang daming
Why?
tao.
I mean, that's a question.
Oo nga
Why?
eh.
Why can't they pinpoint?
Well, for one thing, when the traffic people handling the traffic in the provinces, in the highways, no, when they see that it's a commercial truck, they know.
Oh.
They know that you'll make money out of it.
Eh,
Not the driver,
naka-assign naman
not the
yung mga
driver,
yun,
pero
diba?
sorry.
Naka-assign yung mga tao ron, so you will know
You
who's
can
doing
pinpoint,
it.
Yes.
di ba? The
Yes.
driver knows where.
Well, that's what you call facilitation fee. We'll
Yun
make
na
sure
nga.
hindi ka ma-traffic, mauuna kayo, di ba? Makakaraan na kayo. Or kung magbababa kayo, we'll take care of your parking and make sure that, hindi kayo na-hassle sa ano. So, that adds up to the cost. I'm not saying that's everything that adds up.
Because
but-
ang laki pa rin ng tinalon, di ba? We still have to reconcile a lot of
Yes,
things.
Yes,
yeah?
yes.
But you are also saying, talagang kulang ang supply natin.
That's what the others say. Well, let's talk about sugar.
Yes.
7-8 months na yung problema.
Oo nga
So,
eh.
di ba itong mga lately lang to, pero sugar has been, the problem has been there for so long, so you can't say, and continuous, may supply naman. Hindi naman kami naubusan.
Pero bakit ayaw bumaba
Exactly.
nung
Exactly.
presyo? In one supermarket, hindi ko nababanggitan, 138 ang kilo. Ano ba naman yun?
Wow. Hindi ko
From
nabalitaan yun.
From 108 to 138, depending on the brand. And it's not even imported, ha? Why is it like
And
that?
if we use quick fix firefighting to give it as a solution, temporary solution, the stores which were selling at 70 a kilo before, requested to sell, are now selling at higher prices than the other stores.
Hindi, bakit nga ganon?
Kailangan bawin eh, di ba? Kasi sinolder lang ng private sector eh. Di pa pwede, di ba?
Yes,
Quick fix lang
right.
yun eh, di ba?
Right.
Oo, We can only do so much quick fix. We have to really come up with development plans, long-term, beyond administrations, beyond 1 or 2 administrations.
No, sige, we'll get to that later. Nandun pa rin tayo sa problema. But, what about onions? Are you hearing and are you validating what people have been hearing? Kasi we're supposed to be in the middle of harvest season already now. It runs smack against importation, yes. But just taking the harvest season, they're saying now that ironically a lot of farmers didn't actually plant. Are you hearing the same thing?
Yes, I've heard those na ganun. Plus nung bagyo, there was another thing that they mentioned, climate change and all that stuff, no? Naka-apekto rin, no? But yun, nabalitaan ko rin. But again, yun na nga, we have to assure these farmers of all the crops that they plant, no? That they will get something out of it, di ba? Kasi if they don't, hirap na nga sila.
Yeah, but that's
pahirap
not what they're hearing. Di ba? Parang instead of a reassurance, they read the news na, no, mag-i-import tayo ulit sabay sa harvest nyo.
Exactly. I mean, that's how the farmers and the people in the agribusiness, even the big boys in the agribusiness feel. No? Ano yan? Kumbaga, how can we develop the different industries if puros quick fix? Ang quick fix, nagiging long-term. Yun na yung naging how things are done.
The quick fix being importation.
Mababa talaga kasi daw ang production, di ba? Like now, our latest problem is yung local garlic. Talaga daw mababa production at mahal. Dahil compared to, halimbawa, Taiwanese, no? The big ones, talagang ang mura-mura talaga nun eh. Pero kahit ano sabihin mo sa kanila, talagang mas masarap yung bawang natin, di ba?
Ang sibuyas?
Bawang. I'm talking about garlic.
Garlic.
Ilocos Norte garlic. Yun ang bagong problema ngayon, di ba? That they're blaming it. Bakit daw ang mga tinda nyo, puro imported?
Bakit daw sa time nga nakalagay na bawal ang imported, pero makita mo sa supermarket, local and imported.
Ayaw nyo daw magbenta ng local, yung Ilocos, yung Batanes. Ang sarap-sarap because it's more expensive. That's what people are that's what some of the retailers are saying kasi mahal daw yung local.
I think government should see to it that the conditions are right for these farmers to be able to supply continuously quality vegetables. Kasi pataas-baba rin ang presyo eh. See? Ang sugar, let me give you an example. The sugar manufacturers, sugar millers, taas-baba ang presyo niyan. That's why the soda manufacturers thought of using substitutes and not sugar anymore. Kasi point nila, inadequate at hindi continuous ang supply ng suka. Taas-baba ang presyo. So, hawak sa leg, ang laking porsyento ng soft drinks is sugar, right? So, they took for substitute. And then we tax the substitute. So, now they have to go back to sugar. Problema na naman ang sugar natin. See? So, one solution, creates other problems. No? Dapat sabay-sabay siguro when we look at it. Asin, for example, di ba?
Yeah, we just talked to Phil Asin kanina,
Yun.
Gerard Conjun.
Wala, yun. So, di ba? Mas important na lang, di ba? Kasi it's quicker, the quality is assured and mas consistent.
So you're saying hindi consistent yung supply ng local garlic. I'm confused about that.
No,
Kasi masarap
dadagdag
yung
ko
local
doon.
garlic eh.
Dadagdag ko doon. When you
Yes.
say consistent, you're talking about both quantity and quality.
Correct. So, kailangan yung the co-ops have to, put their minds together so that we can supply. Lumalakas ng benta natin. And then,
Yes.
hindi na sila nag-plant or napunta sa iba, mawawalan ka ng supplier din. So, hindi consistent. Kailangan consistent, di ba?
Sige. Can I move to the
Sustainable.
Can I move to the consumer, to the demand side? What are you seeing at the level of our retailers, at supermarkets, at the groceries? How have people adjusted to these high prices?
So far, people have been very patient. That's what I can
What
say.
is that?
Baka naman no
Ayun na
choice.
nga, kaya sabihin nun.
I mean, let's
Baka naman no choice
Let's
kasi.
not test how far we can stretch that patience, diba? So I think we have to really fix things up to alleviate the situation of our wage earners, diba? There are even wage earners who don't buy sugar anymore. Those who don't have kids at home,
Yeah.
they don't buy sugar, except for coffee 3-in-1, but they don't buy sugar. At that point nila, mas healthy.
Sobrang mahal eh.
Tipid pa,
Renationalize mo na lang sa sarili
Exactly.
mo.
Justify na lang nila na it's
So you're
healthier.
saying bumababa ang sale ng sugar? Retail?
Hindi naman. Those who can afford will still buy as much sugar as they want, right? Ganun eh. So,
Pero
nagbabalance.
yun, meron ba? To follow up on his question,
Yes.
may change ba in consumption patterns because of the high prices?
People buy smaller packs, to make sure that everything's kumasya dun sa kanilang pangailangan.
And producers are shifting to tingi packets, or do you have more producers as well shifting their packaging to tingi portions?
Through the years, they have
They
already.
have already,
I
but more than
was
that,
looking at the sachet packs, and I filled up one whole grocery basket from shampoos to just about everything, to cooking oil, may sachet pack na rin. So, nakakawa, but that's how people spend these days, Kumbaga, just to make sure may mantika tayo at may konti-konti, okay na. Pagtipid na lang tayo, di ba? So, yeah, that's how they're not, adding holes to their belts, but changing their belts. Di ba? Kasi, maluwag na hindi na. So, you gotta reconfigure how to make things work, how to make ends meet. Yeah.
Ano pa kayang, if you are going to meet with government officials, apart from asking this DILG,
Yes.
na pwede ba bawasan na yung facilitation fee na yan, what else can the government do? Kasi yan ang pinag-uusapan ngayon. Parang everybody's just asking each other, ano ba magagawa natin? Walang nagagawa eh. Ang taas pa rin ang
Yung
presyo.
mga NGOs at mga co-ops, they're doing a good thing kasi they'll be able to put together and then educate the farmers also. Kasi once they make good living, sometimes the money is spent somewhere else or they just sell their property, di ba? So, both long-term and short-term So, you need to educate the people so that they know how to sustain what they've gained business-wise.
Are there LGUs who are taking care of their situation at their level better than others? Yeah, I mean, for their constituents. In other words, meron bang probinsya dyan na I might as well move there muna kasi mas parang somehow they've managed to keep things, the prices here more stable.
I'm sure there are. No?
Would you know where they are?
I wouldn't. But I've read, and then people getting their awards. No.
If they're
DTIs
getting awarded, then you can name them. And name some progressive, well-run LGUs na for whatever reason, ang presyo doon mas stable, and let's take that as an indicator of many things.
The Daily Business World comes out with the top 10, right? Every year, di ba? So maybe that's already a basis. Also, there are government projects like OTOP. Yeah, I think that's a good project, but kailangan na ng konting push pa with DOST and to make sure that products are hindi naman kailangan i-distribute nationwide pero kailangan lang ma-strengthen where they are. To give an example, yung pastel from Kamigin, the bread that's sweetened, they need not bring it all the way to Manila kasi maiksi ang buhay nun 7 days di ba? So probably they could, I was telling them probably offhand, you could sell it as the number 1, top of mind, pasalubong when you get back to Manila. Yun lang, ang dami na di ba? Dami mo na mabibenta. Hindi mo naman kailangan dalhin na all the way to Manila so that you sell nationwide, di ba? Baka di kaya ng production mo That's what I mean. You have to be able to know how to serve which market and be able to serve it the best way you can before you start moving out to the other markets. No?
I'll digress a bit, ha? We're still in a pandemic.
Yes.
Fully recovered na ba ang retail industry?
No, of course not. Malayo pa rin.
Anong percentage?
Kasi tandaan mo, nagdagdag pa ng outlets rin eh. Hindi naman nawala ng outlets,
Yes.
Bumagal. Bumagal ang dagdag ng outlets, pero dumagdag, number one. Number two, dumaming formats.
Yes.
Dumaming
Yes.
formats. The
Online.
smaller online and the smaller size stores. There are stores which only have 4 employees. Ganun kaliit. So they're not convenience stores, hindi sa 24/7, pero they're serving a particular niche
Alam ko
in
yung
the area.
chain na yan.
Maraming chain, di lang isa. Di lang isa,
Okay.
Abby. Di lang isa.
So
Di lang isa.
for your segment of the
Yes.
industry, how does your association see that?
Well,
How do you look at it?
we see it, of course, as a threat, di ba? Somehow it's eating into the pie, no? But that's why we meet every now so often, no? Online, it's daily naman we discuss, okay? Pero when we meet face-to-face, kaka-face-to-face din lang namin, no? We discuss nga, these are the the upcoming trends, and if it's a threat to you, how do you face it, or how do you...
Pero some of you also entered into online retail, di ba?
Most of us did.
Yes.
We had to because people weren't coming out. So up to now, some people still buy online.
Anong percentage ng sales
Yes.
nyo ngayon ng ang delivery to home?
Maliit pa rin.
maliit.
Maliit pa rin.
Meaning, what percent?
Wala pang 5%.
Really?
Diba? Yes. People think, kasi damit, rubber shoes, and yes,
Yes.
malakas. Pero pagkain ngayon, people
Pagkain,
kuwang na eh.
yeah.
Ligot na eh. So,
Ah.
nadagdagan na yung benta na yung income ng mga restaurants, malaking nadagdagan. Fast food. Diba? Sabi, the biggest burger chain here says they're back to their pre-COVID sales, right? Maybe. Kasi nadagdagan yung online nila eh, on top of their...
Delivery. What about you? Recovery-wise, percentage?
Yes.
Ano na? From 2020, from the lockdowns?
On the lockdowns, I'd say around 70%,
that's not a
70
lot,
plus.
huh?
That's not a lot
Marami
talaga. Because nagdagdag ang aming cost rin of operation. Di ba? I mean, nagdagdag ang cost of operation eh. Yung iba sa amin, would you believe, still open till only 6:30 in the evenings?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, so
Pero nagbawas din kayo ng tao, di ba? Yung right size, di
even
ba?
the big malls, the chain malls, yung iba,
Yes.
they used to open till late. Yung maaga na nagsasara.
Even 24-hour fast food chains.
Oh.
Oo nga.
Hindi na 24 hours.
Ganun ba?
Para
I didn't
nagulat
know.
ako doon. May mga
Marami.
bagong outlet sa just around our subdivision. May excite ka na, uy, meron na dito, meron na dito.
Magdating mo
Tapos
sarado
pag
na.
wala, sarado.
But you gotta do some pencil pushing, no? Kung it works for you or not, right? Not just because you're a convenience store, you have to open 24/7.
What about yung employment ninyo? Because I understand you shed a lot of jobs, no?
Yes,
But
yes.
it turned out to be right sizing, eh.
Correct.
In your case.
Correct.
So, ilan yung nabalik na, percentage-wise?
Okay, during the Christmas season, syempre may seasonal na nadagdagan ang tao. Pero ngayong tapos na yung peak season, no, nagbawas ulit ng counting tao.
So, compared to 2020, mga ilang percentage yung hindi na mababalik yan? Kasi na-right size na sila.
Feeling ko, mga 25%.
That's a lot, ha?
Marami. Kasi, example,
Yes.
kaya pala ng isang driver itong nagde-deliver tayo dati. Dalawa driver natin for the same purpose. Kaya isa lang pala. Kaya na pala. A lot of people figured that out. No? Business people figured that out. Not just in food, even in the non-food sector.
So, ano yung nadagdag sa inyo? You were saying your costs have gone up.
Of operations? Well, number one, alcohol and all the stuff the machines that you need to assure the people that di ba? Nung panahon ng umpisa pa lang ng pandemic, we had to house our people, di ba? We had to house our people, and the others were paying with kahit sarado sila. So
Para makapasok lang.
we had members who closed. Who
Yes.
closed.
Yeah,
Hindi lang millimeter hours, they closed for a time.
So what
Kasi
will
walang
be,
tao.
Supply, kasi wala rin
what
supply.
do you see as that trend? It's either things become smaller or things become bigger. Or they consolidate and become bigger. I mean, for your particular association and your community, what's the trend na you're all looking at?
Those selling to the prime market can still go with the big sizes. Those going with the wage earner, no, let's claim it that way, para natin more or less nasang level yun, no? Sizes are getting smaller and smaller.
Smaller and smaller.
And the quantity. If you used to buy a dozen, you probably buy now 6 packs. Diba? The eggs, you probably pick up a few pieces, imbis na per dozen na. Diba? Ganun. Nabawasan.
O sige, prospects for the year. Expansion ba kayo? What are you saying? Oh, it's supposed to be improving. The situation
Nababawasan
is
ba kayo ng
improving.
miyembro? Hindi nyo isang tanong.
Expansion ba o contraction?
Medyo dumami ang members. Bakit?
Bakit?
Alarm sila eh. Let's join an organization to find
okay.
out how they do things.
It's a
ganun.
symptom pala of a problem.
So ganun, imbis na, no? Kasi hindi lahat members, of course, especially those who are in the far-flung places, they can come to Manila for quarterly meetings, di ba? Online lang parati. Tsaka iba yung ordinances dun sa area nila, di ba? Up north, they have the Mountain Province Grocers Association. Kasi iba problema nila, di ba?
So they were never organized before. Now they run to you. May sagot pa kayo? I mean, they come to you. Parang, we need help, we need expertise, we need knowledge, we need solutions. Meron ba nun?
Somehow, I felt that when they joined the meetings, they felt na more assured na pwede pala, no? Ano ba yung gawin ito? Hindi natin ginagawa sa lugar natin. Hindi natin balitaan yan. Naiwan tayo. Naiwan tayo sa balita. So, okay, may exchange naman.
So, assured on the level of, meron naman pala. Hindi lang assured on the level of, dami tayong kasama dito.
Oo nga.
Somehow, yes.
Damay-damay ito.
May mga nagsara ba? Meron. Ilan, may nagsara, no? May nag-open ba ng bago? Meron din. Kasi where there's threat, there's always opportunity.
Pero overall, are you seeing an expansion this year? For the industry?
It should be a bit faster, I think. The biggest chain of malls opened 7. There was a year they opened 7 malls in 1 year. That's 12 months, okay? Last year they opened 2. Previous year they opened 2. So they've slowed 3. They've slowed down. Di ba? Kasi it'll become empty
Oo nga.
stores, di ba? If you keep on opening malls, no office spaces, di ba? So,
Sige. Well, Steven, we always, there are some signs of hope, but we always end this way. Anong advice mo sa mga shoppers natin, sa mga consumers natin? Give us some
glimmer of
tips.
hope. Well, yun na nga. We have to be, I guess, people have to habaan pa ng konti ang patience, thinking that this administration will probably put in place the proper conditions, no, for business to thrive and to grow. See? For investors to come in and to stay. But I mean, those are things that you have to, those are conditions which are dapat ang gobyernong nagsiset and to assure and to be able to execute that properly through their DILG and the different cabinet members. No? Yeah. So we're hoping we get clearer signals where we're going also. I mean, can you imagine last year, holidays, we weren't sure which day is the holiday. When will you send out your deliveries? Pagdating sa tindahan, sarado kasi holiday pala. Uy, nakbo! Kamali sayang yung ginastos natin. Lalo na kung refrigerator, kung ref ba, ibabalik pa natin yung goods, di ba? So, hindi efficient. So, clearer signs and that we are, etong gusto kailangan natin tahaking landas para country and the economy moves forward.
Well, you're here in studio with us. That's an indicator of the economy opening up.
Yes.
We'll end with that. Stephen Kua, maraming salamat.
Thanks for having me,
Thank you,
Robbie.
Mr. Kua.
Abby, thank you.
Si Stephen po is President of the Philippine Amalgamated Supermarkets Association. And that's all we have for the Chiefs this week. We hope it was discussed. We'll keep the conversation going. Ako po si Robbie Alampay.
I'm Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
We are One News. All sides, all the time.